So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's live lesson. Today, due to numerous requests and people getting worried and biting their nails, we'll be looking over a progression test / exam paper. Okay, so let's take a look at it, because you'll need to go up close to your screens and read the passage first of all. Okay, let's take a look at that. Now, which one are we looking at? This one. Right. There we go. That's what it looks like. Just exactly the same as your progression tests. And you'll see it's got paper 1, which has got more grammar type questions than paper 2. Okay. And it's got the time. Both papers are the same time, 1 hour and 10 minutes. So normally it takes most people maybe half an hour at most to do a bit of an essay in writing, but we'll look at that as we go along. Read your instructions, because you're supposed to do your progression tests under test conditions, really, which not many people do. So that's a bit naughty. Okay, and the number of marks for the paper is 50. Okay, so not too bad at all. Right, the first thing on the progression test is reading. And in this particular instance, we've got dolphins. Okay, I'm actually going to read this to you simply because it might help you if you can't really read it properly on your screen. And remember, we'll just start. There only are 1, 2, 3, 4 short paragraphs. So try to pay attention or read as we go along. And hopefully you'll get that into your head so we can look at the questions. Okay. Kelly is a pretty amazing dolphin. She lives at a research center in the USA where the dolphins have been trained to keep the tanks clean. These dolphins have learned that if they pass a piece of litter to a trainer, they will be rewarded with a fish. Kelly is also a cunning dolphin, and she has worked out that she can cheat the system. Every time Kelly finds a scrap of paper, she hides it under a rock at the bottom of her tank. Then, when she spots a trainer approaching, Kelly dives down and tears off a small piece to give to the trainer. When the next trainer turns up, Kelly tears off another bit. She seems to be thinking, why get one fish for her piece of paper when she can get lots? Kelly's practical thinking doesn't stop there. One day, a gull flew into her tank. She dutifully gave the bird to a trainer and was rewarded with several fish. This seemed to give her another great idea. When feeding time came around again, she took the last fish down to her secret hiding place under the rock. When the trainers went around, it seemed she used the fish as bait to attract more gulls so that she could present them to the trainers as a reward. In fact, this technique worked so well that she taught her calf how to do it. Others also learned this trick, and now the group are a regular bunch of gull baiters. They have learned to lure them with the fish they have hidden and to swap their feathery bounty for yet more fishy treats. This tale is a brilliant example of how clever dolphins can be. And when they happen upon a great idea or just a new game, they can pass on this knowledge to their friends. Kelly's story perfectly supports the argument that dolphins do not deserve to be held in concrete tanks to amuse humans. Okay, so a lovely story about dolphins. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the whole thing on the screen at one time. Let's just try a little bit. Come on. We'll take away the title. We can get most of it. See if you guys can try to just read that again to yourselves. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes. And then we'll go on and look at some of the questions. Okay. Yes, just proves that dolphins are very smart creatures. Okay, we're going to go down the page a little bit. Right, one more, because you should be able to read pretty fast and you're reading to yourselves. Okay, let's assume you've read it. Right, this is exactly the type of thing you're going to get about your passage in your first comprehension in paper 1. What task do the dolphins do to help at the research center? Okay, and there's 1 mark for that, so you need to make at least 1 valid point. Because in the Cambridge progression tests or exams, there are no half marks. So even if it's half right, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get a big fat 0. So let's take a look at that. What task do the dolphins do to help at the research center? That's question 1. If you like, you can try to jot down the answer. Okay, to see for yourself. We're going to look at these 3 questions first before we go on. So jot down your answer. We won't look at it yet. And the next one, B, 1B, why does Kelly hide scraps of paper at the bottom of the tank? Again, 1 mark, so you must have 1 valid point. And of course, your spelling should be correct. Depending on the answer, I don't think you can be 99% right if it's a grammar question, because they're usually black and white. Okay, right or wrong. Okay, if it's a more subjective answer, then it would be okay. 99% would be okay. All right, so that was question B. And the third one, what did Kelly teach her calf? What did she teach her baby dolphin to do? Again, 1 mark. Okay. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this. Right, I'm going to look at this one. Hopefully you can see this document. Let me know if you can't. And here are the answers. Haha. Right, what task do the dolphins do to help at the research center? They help keep the tanks clean. Okay, so that would be correct, and you would get your 1 point. Why does Kelly hide scraps of paper at the bottom of the tank? So she can tear little bits off and give them to a trainer to earn extra rewards. Okay, also 1 point there. And what did Kelly teach her calf? She taught her calf how to bait gulls for rewards. So if you hadn't put in the for rewards, in other words, why, you wouldn't have got your mark there. Okay, so think carefully about the question. Have you answered that question in full? If so, you're getting your points. All right, let's go back to the other one now. Let's look over the page. If you get any questions about that, stick them onto the web chat. Right, here's the next 3 questions over the page. Give the meaning of the following words as it is used in the passage. Okay, it's got to be the meaning from the actual passage. Okay, in each case, give 1 word or a short phrase. There's always going to be this part on vocabulary. And that's why, yet again, you should be reading, watching subtitles, etc. 1 point for each one. So if you know synonyms, it's going to look good. The first one is spots, and that comes from the sentence. Let me see if I can find it. Then, when she spots a trainer approaching, Kelly dives down and tears off a small piece to give to the trainer. So the word spots in this case is a verb. So you must give a verb in the same tense, which would be what? Yeah? Anyone thinking here? Okay. It's going to be sees or notices. Sees or notices. Yeah, we can't do that. We'll look at the other one there. Lure. The word lure, L-U-R-E, which is normally a noun. I think people who do fishing stick a lure on the end of their hooks or whatever they do with them. Okay, let's see the sentence where lures come from. Right, they have learned to lure the seagulls with fish that they have hidden and swap their feathery bounty for yet more fishy treats. Okay, so lure would be another word for what? Okay, and you just put one answer. You can't put 1, 2, or 3 and expect the examiner to choose the right one. You would get 0 for that. So you must be confident that what you're writing is the correct thing. Okay, you can elaborate a little bit with a phrase. It says one word or short phrase. Okay, and the third word is tail. You know what a tail is? T-A-L-E, not T-A-I-L. Okay, not homonyms, just the word T-A-L-E. And then the last word is supports. S-U-P-P-O-R-T-S. What does supports mean? Okay. And let's look at some answers here. Find them. Let's go over the page and see if you got the same thing. Spots, you could put sees or notices. Okay. Sees or notices. If you lure someone, it means you could put tempt, or you could put the word attract or entices. Entice in this case, because as I said, we must keep it in the same case. And of course, a tale is merely a story. And the case of supports, I know it's difficult when you haven't got the passage, gives evidence for, reinforces, helps. Okay, so either of those things you could have put there, and that's 4 marks just for getting the vocabulary right. Okay, now number 3, add the missing punctuation. There's generally always a punctuation question. I've never seen an exam paper without it. That's why you need to know how to punctuate dialogue and put commas with certain words like however, etc., like we've discussed in Q&As. Okay. Do you think dolphins are clever enough to know what we are thinking? Asked the spectator. The researcher smiled. I don't know, she said. They are certainly intelligent, friendly, and playful. Okay, here's how you would punctuate that one. Do you think dolphins are clever enough to know what we are thinking? And it's a question. All punctuation inside the inverted commas. Okay, asked the spectator. Okay, so a new sentence. Capital letter, some people even forget that. The researcher smiled, comma, before you're going to open your dialogue, inverted commas. I don't know. Make sure you've got a little apostrophe there, comma, inside the inverted commas. She said, full stop. Open inverted commas, they are certainly, with a capital letter, they are certainly intelligent, comma, friendly and playful. Full stop, inverted commas. Okay, so if you get all those things right, you'll get full marks for that question. So adding the missing punctuation to these sentences, it's not going to be one long sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines long. Nobody should write a sentence that long, okay? Break them down, break them up, okay? You must make sense of it, even if you have to speak it aloud to yourself and who's ever invigilating you thinks you're a bit cuckoo. Don't worry about it, okay? If you're a bit cuckoo, you might get more marks. So you would get 2 full marks there, but if you've got a lot of mistakes and everything's wrong, you won't get those 2 marks. So already that's 4 plus 2, that's already 6 marks for 2 bits of grammar. Okay? Right, now here's one that often comes up and people don't know what a relative clause is. Again, we've gone over relative clauses in our Q&As. And let's look and see what a relative clause is. Somebody's raised their hand, but I'll need to look at that later when we stop the share. A relative clause contains a subject and a verb and begins with a relative pronoun. So whatever you write to add your relative clause, it must begin with a relative pronoun, which are who, whom, whose, that, or which. Or even a relative adverb would do, when, where, or why. It depends on the context of the sentence. Look at the sentence. Kelly is a clever dolphin. Then you would just like, who uses fish to catch seagulls, for example. So you could have quite a few different answers, depending on why you think Kelly is a clever dolphin. But as long as the next clause, the next relative clause begins with one of those words, you will get your marks. Okay. So you should all know what a relative clause is. It begins with a relative pronoun. Who, whom, whose, that, or which. Okay. And even if you put your question onto the web chat, it would be easier for me to see it as well. Right, now here's one that always also comes up. Combine these 3 sentences into one complex sentence. Do not use and or but. And why? Because generally these sentences are to join, these words are to join 2 different sentences, which would make a compound sentence, not a complex one, like the one above here, where you've used relative pronouns or relative adverbs. Okay, right, look at these 3 sentences. Dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans. They are very intelligent and playful. Many dolphins are trained in captivity. Some people just decide to, oh, I'll put a comma here, put the next one, and put a comma there, and the next one. But no, no, no. That just does not make sense. You can't join 3 different sentences together without using joining words, conjunctions, etc. Okay, signposting words, things we've looked at quite a few times that people vanish from people's brains generally when they're asked to use them. And there is a sentence you could use. As you can see, this may have several different answers, but as long as you've used the correct connectors and your sentence makes sense, you will get your mark. Although dolphins live naturally in both rivers and oceans, comma, many are trained in captivity because they are very intelligent and playful. Okay, so joining sentences is not as easy as you think when you're not allowed to make them compound sentences using and or but. That's where you must know a lot of connectors. But hopefully you've got lists of your connectors, those who've asked me for them. those who've got them in their own plans for writing essays. If you haven't, you can still send me a web chat and I'll send you them if you want. Okay, better to have them than not have them, because you have them forever and ever. You're going to use the same ones over and over again. Okay, again, that's a grammar question that often comes. Oh, and here's another favorite that they put in. Complete this sentence using two different forms of the same verb. So first of all, you have to find a verb that's going to make sense in each part of the sentence, the same verb. Now, some people mistakenly put one verb here and another verb there, so they're going to get 0 because it can't be half right. Must follow instructions. The trainer threw the fish, which the dolphin, for example, caught in its mouth, but it did not catch the second one. So we've got past tense, the simple past of the verb catch, which is caught. It's an irregular verb, and catch is just the present tense. So a matter of reading the instructions carefully so you don't throw away those marks. So we're very against that. And just using two different forms of the verb. So I can tell you now, your exam is going to comprise of the very same questions. Some questions on the passage, some grammar questions like this, vocabulary, where you need to know your synonyms, or at least see how it's used in the passage and come up with something. Correcting punctuation, if you're not sure about colons, semicolons, etc., revise that. Or you can ask me for some notes. Find notes in your book. Relative clauses, they love asking you about that. Combining sentences into one sentence, they do that one. And completing sentences using different forms of the same verb. Very, very popular things to do. Okay. Now, after that, then you'll go on to another comprehension to look at and read. And they're going to ask you to do a summary. Now, some people, we've looked at doing summaries from time to time, but it's always good to revise it. Okay, and how they make this a bit easier for you when you read the passage, they ask you to make a list of all the dangers to oceans, river dolphins, for example. We won't look at the passage because we're going to run out of time, but let's look at how to answer it. So you list all the dangers that you find in the passage. And we found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dangers. Okay, and we write down what they are. And it's not just make a list of the dangers. It says, and the results of these dangers. So follow the question carefully, find out what the danger is and what happens because of those dangers. In this case, we've got getting caught in fishing nets causes dolphins to drown. Unsustainable commercial fishing reduces dolphins' prey, in other words, what they catch and eat. Noise from naval operations and seismic surveys affect their echolocation, which causes them to become stranded on the shore. Being struck by ships and other vessels causes both serious and fatal injuries. Human activities like chemical pollution in rivers, lakes, and estuaries can be fatal as well. And then there's the risk from man-made structures like dams and barrages, which restrict their movement and affects their access to prey and suitable habitat. So in this question, we've written down all the dangers and the results of those dangers. Okay, now, how are you going to write your summary? A lot of people just start copying from the passage itself, which would actually be plagiarism because you are using that writer's work. And it says, try to use your own words as much as possible. So this is where your knowledge of vocabulary, and synonyms comes into play. And how we're going to write it is just by looking at all those points we've made. We've made those points and we're going to summarize using them. We're not even going to look at the passage. So that's why it's really good for you to get everything down here, because that's going to lead you to write a good summary. So if you write all those points, you'll get 4 marks. So if you've done that correctly, 4 marks, that's great. Oh, there's someone late. Don't worry, better late than never. And summarizing, as we said, is very difficult. But you've now got something to use for your summary. So you're going to look at this, get it into your head, almost memorize it, use synonyms wherever you can, or different vocabulary, paraphrase what they're saying, put it into different words, okay, and you're going to come up with an answer, something like this. Okay, let's look at this and see if you think it's just like the points we made. Human activities pose the most dangerous threat to dolphins. Okay, we've actually summarized the whole passage in that very first sentence. It's really like a topic sentence, okay? Ships strike many dolphins accidentally, and this causes serious or even fatal injuries. Not only can they get caught up in fishing nets and drown, but overfishing also leaves the dolphins with no food to catch. We're saying the same thing in different words. Not all totally different, obviously. The dolphin's echolocation is disturbed by certain naval operations. Further, it's also messed up by earthquake events, and this causes them to be marooned on beaches as their sense of direction is muddled. Freshwater dolphins suffer mainly from human pollution, which destroys their habitat. Even dams or barrages can impede their ability to travel through the water to chase after their food supply. So we've said all the things that were in your list up here. Okay, so that's why we know we're writing something slightly or hopefully really different but similar to the writer in the first place. Okay, yes, I can see time is up. But often in the Q&As, we will look at how to summarize, and this is exactly the best way how to do it. So if you get this part of the question wrong, the chances of you getting this right are not correct. They are very low. Okay, let's stop the share now and let's see if there are any questions we can answer briefly. And if you typed your questions on the web chat, I could see them a bit better. Okay, thank you. Anyway, just for the moment, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you all next time, hopefully.